I am the vicious female supporting character in a sweet romance novel, secretly in love with the male lead. By now, the male lead has grown tired of me and sent me to the bed of the villainous big shot, but he doesn't know that the villain is the female lead's white moonlight and has long harbored wicked intentions toward me. On the first day of my imprisonment, I awakened the ability to read minds. Strange. Why does this villain seem a bit like a pervert? Kneel down and look up at me. A cold male voice came from above. I lowered my head, and as soon as my knees touched the cold ground, my body was forcefully lifted. Wife, 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 my sweet and soft wife. Why is the plot so damn cruel? I can't bear to bully my wife. I've laid out 3 layers of carpet for my baby, and I'll pick her up right after delivering my lines. The cold male voice mixed with an extremely noisy inner monologue. I looked at the man in front of me with a complicated expression. His features were sharp and masculine. Wife. She looked at me. Damn system. What's my next line? Once I finish my lines, I can kiss my wife, right? What? After I finish my lines, my wife still has to reward me with a slap. I'm about to faint. From the moment he entered, Frank's inner thoughts never ceased. Miss Tiffany. The noisy sound ceased. A man's voice, filled with pressure, reached my ears. I felt a bit scared. My body trembling involuntarily. Frank is not a good person. His reputation in the industry is extremely poor. If it weren't for his overwhelming strength, no one would be willing to cooperate with this scoundrel. They all say that if it weren't for the existence of the law, those who have offended him would have long been thrown into the sea to feed the sharks. Back when Frank was a down-and-out illegitimate child, I once grabbed him by the hair and mocked him, saying he was only fit to be my dog for the rest of his life. Now, evil has been met with evil. The female lead has returned to her roots, and my identity as a fake heiress has been exposed. If I want to continue living the wealthy life I had before, my only option is to beg Frank to agree to marry me. I heard he hits people, even women. I glanced at his hands, with prominent veins that looked very strong, and averted my eyes. These hands must hurt a lot when hitting someone. Miss Tiffany, your sincerity in asking for a favor seems insufficient. He took off that expensive, valuable watch. The watch fell onto the table with a crisp, clack, sound. I bit my lip tightly, then numbly followed the procedure in my mind, slowly taking off my coat. Humph, a cold, mocking laugh filled with explicit humiliation. Has no one ever taught you? I thought Miss Tiffany had already become skilled through practice. I knew he was mocking me for the incident where I had offered myself to the male lead, only to be publicly driven away in front of everyone. I knelt on the ground, my eyes already brimming with tears from the humiliation and sorrow. I knew I was the villainess, and after awakening, I changed a lot to avoid being abandoned by my family as in the script. Originally, I was supposed to be a poor student, but this time I studied hard and got into a top university. However, after getting in, I realized the male lead and the female lead were ranked first and second in the province, respectively. They met fatefully at the same school. No matter how hard I try, I can never catch up with their pace. Jack and I grew up together as childhood sweethearts. He awakened earlier than I did. Back in high school, he already knew he was the male lead in a novel. At that time, he didn't take the plot seriously. When he heard that I wanted to retake the college entrance exam to get into the same university as him, he tapped my head and said, "Don't worry, I won't let the plot control me into falling for someone else." Jack would update me on his daily life every day, even telling me about every oddly shaped tree he came across. Later, the frequency of his messages became increasingly lower, until finally, "Her current family situation is very bad. I want her to recognize her parents earlier." He rambled on to me about many of the female lead's childhood experiences, and between the lines, there was a deep sense of pity for her. He used the plot to secretly help the female lead in many ways, even warning me multiple times not to commit the same irreparable foolish acts as in the story. Suppressing the dark jealousy within, I helped Jack bring the female lead back home. I returned the room I had been living in to the female lead. My dance studio was converted into a painting studio for her, and I followed the plot by giving back to her everything she was supposed to have in advance. My parents were delighted that we could coexist peacefully, unlike in the story where they kicked me out of the house. I thought life would continue peacefully like this, but how could the plot let off a villainess like me, at my engagement party with Jack? I got a face full of water thrown by the female lead's hot-tempered best friend. You fake, how dare you steal someone else's man? She felt that the female lead had been wronged and deliberately exposed my identity as a fake heiress in front of everyone. The female lead stood nearby, looking at me apologetically, then flustered, she threw herself into my fiancé's arms and said, "I'm sorry, my friend didn't mean it." Jack avoided my gaze and comforted the female lead, saying, "Don't cry, it's not your fault." He carried the female lead away from the scene, leaving only one sentence, "Tiffany, we're calling off the engagement." I thought I would be very sad, but aside from feeling a bit embarrassed, there was actually no turmoil in my heart. As the male and female leads left, the guests dispersed, only an incredibly empty banquet hall remained. My wife looks adorable even when she's spacing out. I want to kiss her. Kiss, 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 kiss. My thoughts were interrupted, and the clothes I was tightly clutching were picked up by Frank and tossed aside. I turned my head away, avoiding his unrestrained gaze. The man let out a dissatisfied hum, my waist was pulled tight, and I was lifted from the ground onto the long table. The seat beneath me felt soft. I couldn't tell how many cushions he had laid down. My struggling hands were pinned down by his single grip. A shadow crossed the man's eyes as he said, "I'm no philanthropist. In business, sincerity matters." My clothes were slowly pushed up. His face was half in light, half in shadow, like a vicious beast baring its blood-stained fangs, ready to strike. The specially made clothes, unable to bear the strain, tore with a rip sound and half of it fell to the ground. His hand froze mid-air, a flicker of panic flashing in his eyes. "Help, help, help, I didn't mean to." I lowered my gaze to hide the amusement in my eyes. "This is the outfit I specifically bought, and it tears apart with just a tug." The plot mentioned that there was a major villain who had a crush on me for years, even going so far as to imprison me. The plot was indeed correct. He's totally in love. The originally tense body gradually relaxed under the soothing rhythm of Frank's heartbeat. Frank's heartbeat had been anticipating me hitting him. How strange. Does anyone actually enjoy being hit? I cautiously raised my hand, pretending to be annoyed and embarrassed, and swung it toward his left cheek. "Honey, hit the right cheek. My left cheek is too good-looking to be hit." My wife slapped me, hiss. "My wife's hand smells so good. Hit me, hit me." I pretended to struggle a few times in his arms, in sync with the inner voice. "Ooh." I've grabbed my wife's soft, fragrant hand. My adorable wife, struggling like this might make her shed little pearls. Two different voices echoed in my ears, as if from split personalities. "Have you and Jack tried it on the table, Miss Tiffany? Since you've chosen me, you can't be fickle, otherwise I'll make sure Miss Tiffany's belly gets filled." This line is truly vicious. Forget it, system, keep shocking me. I can't bear to see my dear wife cry. I am my wife's dog. Woof woof. The pressure holding me down suddenly loosened, and I saw the man in front of me abruptly turn his head away, his brows furrowed tightly. "It hurts." The man's face paled for a moment, but when he met my worried gaze, he pretended as if nothing had happened. It turns out he faces punishment for not following the plot, unlike me, thankfully. I just showed my wife my left side. My left side is more handsome. Ugh, I didn't dare kiss my wife, afraid she'd get angry. So many people covet my wife. It's finally my turn to step into the plot. That bastard Jack, how dare he try to steal my wife? I suppressed my fear of Frank and carefully observed his face. Frank's appearance was exceptionally handsome. Unlike Jack's, Jack is an unattainable flower, with an ethereal appearance that seems untouched by the mundane world. He exudes an air of coldness, distant, yet without any sense of aggression. The person in front, however, has sharp, phoenix-like eyes beneath thick brows and a high, prominent nose bridge. When he leans in, it only amplifies the sense of pressure. Is his earlobe turning red? I wanted to hear what Frank's heart was saying, but the air remained utterly silent. "You're blushing too," I suddenly spoke up. "No," Frank replied quickly, his face cold and looking quite intimidating. If I didn't have the ability to read minds, would definitely be fooled by his appearance. Tilting my head, I stood up, stepped on his shoulder, and pressed him down bit by bit, asking curiously, "Why aren't you saying anything? Just now, I heard you cursing Jack in your mind quite happily." The room was completely silent. "System, How come I didn't know my wife can read minds? What should I do if I broke character the first time I met my wife? Wah wah wah, wife, you can step on me. But you can't hit me because of Jack. Frank knelt neatly on the ground, a trace of pitifulness flashing in his dark eyes, the 188-meter-tall man curled up into a ball, lost in his own world. I won't apologize for scolding Jack. This is a matter of a man's principles. Frank, thank you for liking me. I haven't finished speaking yet. The doorbell suddenly rang. A flicker of malice flashed in Frank's eyes, and he looked at me pitifully. I don't want to open the door. My sixth sense as a man tells me that whoever is here is definitely no good. I glanced at the door. He understood my meaning, a flicker of frustration flashing in his eyes. All right, he took off his coat and covered me up completely. The door was opened. I heard Frank curse in his heart. Damn it, is this your scene? Why are you here? The woman slapped, and the man even used the 18 dragon subduing palms. I locked eyes with a pair of indifferent eyes across the distance. Jack spoke. Come here. Behind him stood the female lead. After they saw my disheveled appearance, their eyes were filled with reproach. It seemed to be questioning me. How could I do something so improper? I slowly walked behind Frank and tugged at the corner of his clothes. Frank turned his head away coldly and stiffly. Bad woman, one should not be too soft-hearted, or they will become a woman's plaything. No matter what you say, I won't agree. I told you to lock the door, I said helplessly. Why did you open it instead? This man has so much inner drama. Is it certain that the female supporting character will always love the male lead? Woof woof. Frank arrogantly planted a kiss on my face, then kicked the male and female leads out the door. Then he cautiously asked, You really didn't hear my inner thoughts? I answered without blushing or my heart racing. No, impossible. You clearly heard me scolding Jack just now. For the first time. His inner thoughts and spoken words were in sync. But you just said you heard me scolding Jack. I guessed. I majored in psychology in college, I said calmly. Phew, luckily my wife can't hear this, otherwise, she'd think I'm a total pervert. Frank observed my expression while silently going through all the scenes of forced love. He skipped many of the lines, and as a result, he had been punished by the system multiple times, giving off a sense of being broken and bullied. He buried his head in my shoulder, hesitating to take the next step. He doesn't dare touch me, hurt me. The voice in his heart is soft, as if coaxing me. I took the initiative to wrap my arms around his neck and whispered, Bad dog. He was thoroughly scolded, and the intensity was overwhelming. His hand maliciously pressed against my lower abdomen. I felt somewhat broken, tears streaming endlessly, and eventually, I drifted into a heavy, dazed sleep, before I passed out. I didn't see the man's dark and gloomy expression. He coldly pressed the power button to turn off the constantly vibrating phone beside him. I spent a few lazy days at Frank's villa, doing nothing productive. However, rumors were spreading outside that I had already offended Frank and was being badly mistreated. I lay bonelessly on the sofa, surrounded by a pile of snacks, binge-watching TV shows, rich, with free time. But the man doesn't come home at night, satisfying. My fake girlfriend sent me a WeChat message. Did Frank really hit you? We really feel for you. You must be short on money right now. We can pool some money to help you out. You were used to being a rich girl before, so this must be really hard for you to adjust to. Did you know that Jack and Sarah are getting engaged? They seem quite well matched, both in terms of education and family background. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to bring them up. I know. They all want to see me make a fool of myself. People say that aside from my looks, I'm no match for Sarah in any way. It's ridiculous, as if putting me down makes them any better. I didn't want to spoil their fun, so I started talking nonsense. Suddenly, I felt the urge to act. I took a picture of the bruised and purple marks on my arm and tearfully sent a voice message. I'm so miserable, you have no idea. Frank actually abused me. Boo-hoo, Mom and Dad have both abandoned me. Jack has abandoned me too. They heard my voice, and the messages came even more enthusiastically. I pouted and then sent another voice message. The crown worn by Queen Elizabeth will be auctioned off the day after tomorrow. I don't have the money to buy it. Send me 50 million. The messages in the WeChat group have stopped. How boring. There was a noise outside the door. Knock, knock. Knock. Someone is banging on the door. At this hour, Frank is still at the office. Who is it? I stood guard at the door. holding the anti-wolf electric baton Frank had prepared for me. The door burst open, a familiar scent of cedar wafted to the tip of my nose. Jack. Why is he here? Jack looked me up and down, with 3 bodyguards standing behind him. Before I could say a word, he grabbed me tightly and pulled me out. Damn it. Breaking into a private residence. I'm calling the police. Let go. Tiffany, I'm sorry. Hearing the apology from beside me, I froze. Did he cry? I looked at Jack's reddened eyes with some disdain. What is he crying about? I'll marry you. It's my fault. I shouldn't have let you go find Frank. Jack's expression was filled with guilt. Could it be that he believed the rumor about me being beaten by Frank? No. Is he sick? He embarrassed me in public. Who asked him to marry me? Does he think he's some kind of savior and feel proud about it? Do you want to see who's standing behind you? I looked at him mockingly. According to the novel's plot, how could the female lead not be present in such a scene where she's being mistreated? As expected, Sarah appeared like a ghost at the corner that was originally empty, then ran away crying. I rolled my eyes at Jack. I don't want to be a part of the male and female leads game. If he hadn't given me hope all along, I wouldn't have become the villainous female supporting character who turns dark after unrequited love in the plot. The story glosses over his kindness to me, but for me, it was a genuine 10 years. During these 10 years, he was the one who approached me first. Why can he fall in love with the female lead and walk away unscathed, while I have to become the villainess? My gaze turned cold, a fire igniting in the depths of my eyes. No matter how handsome his appearance or how impressive his background, it can't hide the fact that he's a scumbag at heart. Jack hesitated for a moment, his eyes gradually growing resolute. I want to marry you. Frank is not a good man. We can have a fake marriage, and once you're free from Frank's control, we can divorce. What a vicious idea. With just a few words, he's already labeled me as a divorcee. My eyes were fixed on his face, then I picked up the electric baton, turned the current to the maximum, and under his disbelieving gaze, I struck down hard. Watching Jack's face contort in pain completely dispelled any charm I once saw in it. Just as I was about to strike him a few more times with the electric baton, I heard a familiar voice. Shameless homewrecker, trying to steal my partner behind my back. The back of my neck was grabbed, and Frank appeared with a menacing glare. I immediately threw away the electric baton and pretended to be weak and delicate. Did his wife just agree to his proposal? I don't want to be a desperate widower. I guiltily touched my nose, hoping he hadn't seen me hitting someone just now. When I first met Jack, there was still a bit of bitterness in my heart, but now, as I rub my sore waist, all I can think about is Frank's abs and those well-defined Adonis lines. Oof, his figure is way better than Jack's. As I kept thinking, my nose started to itch, and a nosebleed began to flow, a bit embarrassing. Frank panicked and picked me up, glared fiercely at Jack, and threw the bewildered me into the car. According to novels, nosebleeds are always a sign of a terminal illness. I don't want my wife to die. The 4 wheels sped quickly towards the hospital. I was a bit stunned. It was just a nosebleed. No need to be so nervous, right? But Frank ignored my objections and drove with a serious expression on his face. The doctor, looking exasperated, held the report and stared at Frank. Let me say it again. Your girlfriend is perfectly healthy. She does not have a terminal illness. This is just a common nosebleed. I stood in place, head bowed, staring intently at the cracks in the floor tiles, my toes digging into the ground. Frank even booked an appointment with a specialist. The doctor looked at my perfectly healthy report, his brows furrowed so tightly they could have crushed a fly. Could it be an early stage? So it hasn't been detected yet. We should run the tests again. Frank, I couldn't help but knock him on the head. Can't you wish me well? Sorry, doctor, my apologies. I dragged him out, head lowered, pulling him along. Frank's dark, deep eyes quietly watched me before he finally took my hand and left the hospital. I sensed something unusual. He clearly knew I wasn't sick, so why did he still look so troubled? I tried to cheer him up by making a funny face while leaning next to him. Frank ignored me. I heard that in his mind. He was already thinking about the possibility of him dying for love if I were to die. He really shouldn't love so much. For a moment, silence fell. Just as I felt a bit overwhelmed and wanted to leave the room, he suddenly spoke. Don't you like him? Those eyes were so focused it was a bit frightening. I stammered in reply. A good horse doesn't turn back to graze. Frank's phone rang. He frowned and replied, the meeting is postponed. Then he gave me a supplementary card. If you want to buy something, go to the auction tomorrow and get it yourself. The way he tossed the card was very domineering, but his inner thoughts were chaotic. How dare anyone mock my wife for not being able to afford a crown? Kill, kill, kill. The eerie atmosphere was interrupted by Frank's inner thoughts. I glanced at Frank's screen and saw a familiar profile picture. Can someone tell me how Frank, a grown man, managed to sneak into my plastic sisterhood group, and under Julia's name? Frank quickly scrolled through the group chat messages, elegantly sat down at his desk, put on his gold-rimmed glasses, and assumed the appearance of seriously handling official business. I held my phone, sneakily clicking on the profile picture I had just glimpsed. Because my hand slipped, I accidentally tapped twice. A message appeared in the group chat. You patted Julia. I guiltily withdrew the pat. Before I could withdraw it, I saw Julia patted my profile picture. Julia patted your profile picture and said, "Let me see those abs." I noticed Frank's fingers pause slightly, his gaze pressing down on me. I lowered my head, pretending not to see. Wanting to see some abs isn't really a big deal. I stared at the familiar profile picture. Julia is Jack's cousin, a friend I added during a banquet before. Like Jack, she has a cool and elegant appearance and is also the quiet, reserved type. I had never seen her chat in the group before. When she joined the group, I was taken aback for a moment. How did her WeChat ID end up in Frank's hands? I couldn't help but feel a sour bubble rising in my heart, along with a sense of disappointment. Were they so intimate in private that they could even share accounts? I clicked into the moments, only to find a single post from 3 years ago. The caption read, "My moon." It was a high school graduation photo. A group picture from our high school. My eyes instinctively glanced toward a corner. Oh wow, Jack's head was actually photoshopped out. That's a bit scary. Why is Julia's account in Frank's hands? I racked my brains but still couldn't figure it out. Who is her moon? With a gossipy mindset, I looked around for a long time but couldn't find a single guy who was worthy of Julia. Julia is exceptionally outstanding, with both good looks and a degree from a top 50 QS university. If I had to compare her and Jack to see who is more impressive, I would definitely side with Julia. Sigh, with such a gem before him. What does Frank like about me? Thinking about my painful high school study days, I let out a sigh. Sometimes you have to admit that besides hard work, learning also requires a bit of talent. I feel so incompetent. No wonder she's the vicious female supporting character. Her mind never works on serious matters. I glanced at Frank and happened to meet his gaze. Well, he also graduated from a top 50 QS university. For some reason, it feels a bit awkward. I hung my head low. Why didn't the author give me a clever brain? Can't a child prodigy female lead work? What's wrong? A male voice interrupted my wandering thoughts. Frank sat there leisurely, appearing calm on the surface, but his inner thoughts had already flooded several floors. Who made my baby unhappy? Check the group chat. No updates. Are you thinking about Jack? Is it because I'm not dressed well today? Wasn't she just fawning over her boyfriend with gold-rimmed glasses yesterday? Why isn't she looking at me now that I'm wearing glasses? Don't think about him. Think about me. Look at me. I burst out laughing. Frank's ears twitched, and his inner monologue stopped. I briefly admired Frank's outfit and gave him a silent compliment in my heart. Then, looking at the group chat messages in my hand, my smile faded. The fake friends are starting trouble again. They saw the messages between Julia and me in the group chat and asked with ill intentions, "Julia, did you and Frank have a previous engagement?" "Yes, we've seen photos of you two together before." I stared at my phone screen, and before I could reply, I saw Julia had already responded. Julia, completely unfounded. Julia, Frank is incredibly lucky to have won Tiffany's heart. Julia, who says Tiffany isn't good enough for him. She's miles ahead of Frank in every way. You're just jealous because you're unattractive. I watched as Frank, using Julia's name, went on a rampage in the WeChat group, indiscriminately escalating the argument into personal attacks. I fell into silence. What am I really worried about? A bunch of crazy people are spreading rumors irresponsibly. I need to explain quickly so my wife doesn't misunderstand and think I'm not upholding proper male virtues. Frank, annoyed by how slow typing on his phone was, started clattering away on the keyboard. I took Frank's card and went to the auction, but I didn't take a picture of that little crown. I was just talking big. in my opinion, that little crown isn't worth that much money. The little crown was taken by Jack. The female lead sat beside him, her eyes filled with sweetness. TSK, the male and female leads are being lovey-dovey again. Actually, I didn't really want the little crown that much. But facing the onlookers' curious gazes from my fake friends, I still felt a bit annoyed. 40 million. I saw someone else place a bid on the screen. As the male lead in a sweet romance, Jack would definitely follow through to the end. When I first awakened, I joked with Jack that anyone who would spend a fortune on this little crown must have more money than sense. Now he's become that fool. I remember the final bid for this little crown was 80 million. I watched the skyrocketing price of the little crown and silently cursed a wicked villain in my heart. When the bid for 80 million was called out for the second time, the entire room gasped in shock. I continued to curse a wicked villain in my heart. Damn scumbag, raise the bid. A man's voice came from beside my ear. Frank. He strode over and sat down directly next to me, immediately raising the bid by 10 million. I whispered in his ear, it's not worth it. A man's dignity, raise the bid. Next, I watched in disbelief as the price of this small crown skyrocketed to an astonishing amount. In the end, it was won by Frank at twice the original transaction price. He tilted his head and looked at me, with a face full of expectation for praise. Honey, am I handsome? Is there anything else you like? Take pictures of it all. I pinched his thigh and said, stop taking pictures. That diamond is so sparkly. It's perfect for my wife. This bracelet is beautiful. It would look great on my wife's hand. Frank didn't pay any more attention to Jack and just took pictures of everything he liked. Save up for the betrothal gifts and get married sooner. My heart trembled. The calm and lifeless surface of the lake rippled. The fake sisters kept spamming messages in the group chat. They refused to believe all those things were bought for me, preferring to think Frank was keeping a mistress on the side. And Frank, with his sparkling eyes and under the name, Julia, roasted them all over again. When I got home, I saw a pile of high-end luxury gifts on the floor and felt a bit dizzy. Although receiving gifts feels great, getting too many of them gives me the feeling that I'm about to face the executioner and have my last meal. Frank stared at me with eager eyes. Don't like it? If not, we can change it. No, I like it. I watched as Frank picked up a bag and was about to throw it into the trash. So I quickly grabbed it and held on tight. I thought Frank would propose to me tomorrow, but, unexpectedly, another uninvited guest arrived. It was the female lead, Sarah. What is she here for? Crying again. Damn it, I didn't bully her. Fortunately, Frank had set up surveillance all around, so there shouldn't be any false accusations or attempts to frame me. I opened my phone, checked that all the cameras were on, and only then felt reassured enough to stand in front of the female lead. Mom and Dad miss you a lot and want you to come back. Sarah glanced at me timidly. I looked at her from head to toe, all dressed in designer brands, a completely different style from before, and replied, there's no need, you've already gone back. Feelings can go astray. The female lead and I just don't click. From the day she returned, when my parents tactfully asked me to give up my room, I decided not to go back to that home anymore. A tear welled up in Sarah's eyes as she lowered her head. I'm sorry, my friend didn't mean to cause trouble at the engagement party. I had no idea she would say those things. All right, stop right there. An apology without any real action is meaningless. Crossing my arms, I looked at the female lead, who still carried a hint of insecurity in her eyes, and said, if you really wanted to stop it, you should have explained everything clearly at the engagement party instead of crying and letting Jack take you away, leaving me there to be humiliated. This is a heartwarming and sweet story, but Sarah's personality isn't actually very likable. Besides her, many people around her suffer undeserved misfortunes. I never liked her from the very beginning. No reason. Call me malicious if you will. After all, no one wants to be used as a tool. I saw Sarah still standing there without leaving, so I added, don't worry, I'll still bring Frank back during the holidays. Here's the wedding invitation. We're getting married in a month. You can bring Jack along. Sarah blurted out. How is that possible? I couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. What's wrong, sis? You want to have it both ways. Sarah pursed her lips and fell silent. All right, I can see it now. She really wants to take both. In this kind of misunderstanding scenario, the male lead should be nearby, right? I craned my neck to look around and sure enough, I spotted the male lead with reddened eyes behind us. He runs, she chases, he has no escape. By all accounts, Jack should have already taken over the family business and expanded the family enterprise by now. When the engagement was called off, I still had some compensation stocks in hand, thinking of Julia, whose reputation had been ruined by Frank. I rolled my eyes and came up with a wicked idea. I invited her to a cafe to offer some compensation. I have a lot of free time today, let's do something mischievous. Julia was dressed in a women's suit, looking sharp and professional, with the demeanor of a strong businesswoman. No matter how you look at it, she seems more suitable than Jack to inherit the family business. I got straight to the point and laid out my bargaining chips. Jack has been too focused on romance these years, and the subsidiary company was in complete chaos after being acquired. I don't think he's fit to be the successor. Soon, we reached an agreement as stakeholders with shared interests. After she exposed Jack's vulnerabilities, I took my share of the dividends. Before she left, we added each other on WeChat. The WeChat account in the group before was Frank's own, perhaps to maintain his image. He reached a collaboration with Julia. It seems there are quite a few awakened individuals in this script. As for me, being chosen by the author as the vicious female supporting character does make some sense. My little brain is always brewing malicious schemes. Those who harm me will never come to a good end. I'm really curious. Can a bankrupt and morally flawed person still be the male lead? My phone rang 3 times. I knew without looking that it was Frank checking in. Bad guy. He put a tracker in my necklace. I ignored him, and then, he locked me at home for a whole day. I stared blankly at the ceiling. Are we supposed to hate what we do every day in the plot? What are you thinking about? In the dim light, it kept licking my swollen lips. A few obscene and vulgar words reached my ears. Frank, don't push your luck. I lifted my leg and kicked him in the chest, then grabbed a pillow and smashed it into his face. Where does Tiffany want to run off to? Trying to leave me again. He lifted me up and placed me on his abdomen. I swallowed hard, my hand pressed against his full chest muscles, and my elbow kept sensing his tight abs. I have reason to suspect he's retaliating for that WeChat pat I sent earlier. The tissue box fell to the ground, scattering everywhere. Be careful, we still have to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. I pinched his shoulder. The bad dog has quieted down a bit. Great news that brings joy to everyone. The day after getting our marriage certificate, Julia told me that the company Jack was in charge of had actually gone bankrupt, and as a result, he lost his inheritance. When he knelt in front of our house in the pouring rain, putting on a dramatic show of sorrow, I thought I had mistaken him for someone else, with a stubbly beard. It's really too disheveled. Jack's eyes were bloodshot. I'm no longer the male lead. I was wrong. Tiffany, if I give up the male lead role, can you come back? The child is gone, and now you show up. I looked at Jack's face. Stripped of the male lead's halo, he became utterly ordinary when thrown into a crowd. And Frank's public image has been improving day by day recently. I looked at Jack kneeling on the ground, not a trace of sympathy in my eyes. This is a sweet romance world. According to the logic of this small world, naturally, whichever couple has the highest sweetness level becomes the male and female leads. From the very beginning, I told you, if you want to be with me, you have to be faithful until the end. But you insisted on changing your heart. Who can you blame? Back then, I truly had feelings for him, back when he wasn't rotten yet. As for Frank, he stood by my side like a knight, glaring at Jack with a hostile gaze. I can no longer hear his inner thoughts, because the protagonist's halo has fallen upon me, and in the world of sweet romance novels, whoever the female lead chooses becomes the male lead. Frank is free, a mechanical voice sounded from the ear. This world has been repaired and is now operating normally, after hearing the first story above. What are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. After marrying the blind CEO, when I changed clothes in front of him, a barrage of comments flashed before my eyes. The CEO had just regained his sight and saw his wife like this. He must have clenched his fists so hard in restraint. You better be talking about fists. What are you joking about? Chandler has never been interested in women. He only married Alice because of his parents' demands. How could he fall in love without even having seen Alice's face? His hands paused while buttoning. I turned my head. Before he could speak, a trickle of bright red blood flowed from Chandler's nose. Could it be that Chandler has really regained his sight? Since Chandler accidentally lost his sight, the bedroom door has never been closed again. I had just unzipped my dress, revealing my fair back. Chandler's unhurried footsteps sounded right behind me, but my movements didn't falter in the slightest. This dress was a size too small when I bought it, and it felt terribly tight on my body. After all, Chandler wouldn't be able to see it anyway. I was about to continue as if nothing had happened. Suddenly, bullet comments flashed before my eyes. The CEO had just regained his sight and saw his wife like this. He must have clenched his fists so hard in restraint. You better be talking about fists. What are you joking about? Chandler has never been interested in women. He only married Alice because of his parents' demands. How could he fall in love without even having seen Alice's face? I lowered my eyes. The Franklin family once did my family a great favor. After Chandler, the only heir of the Franklin family in this generation, had an accident, his family came to me, hoping I would become Chandler's nominal wife. Besides taking care of his daily needs, I also have to help him conceal the fact that he is blind, to maintain the Franklin family's stock price. Chandler's injury is not clear, but the Franklin family promised me, once Chandler regains his sight, I can end my relationship with Chandler. After marriage, Chandler and I treated each other with respect, because of Chandler's eye condition. We never had any intimate contact, like two polite strangers, but the barrage of comments made it impossible for me to ignore. Chandler, has he really regained his sight? I turned around and looked at the handsome, tall man. Chandler seemed to sense something and turned his head in my direction, yet his gaze remained unfocused. Alice, are you here? I deliberately remained silent, only nodding. Yet Chandler stubbornly faced my direction, waiting for my response. This didn't seem at all like someone who had regained their sight. I'm here. Putting down the dress, I walked over to Chandler wearing only the lace camisole underneath. I waved my hand in front of his face a couple of times. He didn't even blink. Could the bullet comments I saw earlier have been my imagination? But the next second, Chandler, standing in front of me, slowly lowered his head. A streak of crimson trickled from his nose. A flicker of panic crossed Chandler's face as he quickly raised his hand to cover it. Sorry, did I scare you? I might have been a bit stressed lately. So, the CEO said they have internal heat, but where exactly? Oh my, it's so hard to guess. I guess it's the lower abdomen. Fun fact, the CEO has been on a light diet since the injury, and Lucy's menu is still posted on the fridge. Sautéed celery with lily bulbs, steamed sea bass. Speak for me, I'm dying. First time hearing someone gets heaty from eating this lolalalolol. The barrage of comments appeared before my eyes again. It's fine, I happen to be good at making a few light dishes. Saying this, I took another step closer to Chandler, close enough to smell the woody scent on him. He suddenly coughed lightly and stepped back. I just remembered, there's still some work I haven't finished. I'll leave it to you. Then, after saying that, he quickly felt his way along the wall and left. The barrage comments are right. Chandler is indeed a workaholic who keeps his distance from women. Even after losing his sight, he continued to work from home using the accessibility features of electronic devices. As a result, very few people knew that Chandler had gone blind. Peering through the layers of barrage comments, I glanced at Chandler's figure and raised an eyebrow. As for whether he has regained his sight, we can find out by testing it. At my specific request, Lucy did not come to cook. From preparing the ingredients to cooking and serving the dishes, I handled everything myself. Chandler obediently sat across from me. I've asked around. If you're suffering from internal heat, eating some cooling salads is best. In front of Chandler, I opened a tube of mustard and squeezed it into the aloe vera salad I had just made. This green color looks so refreshing, right, Chandler? He chuckled. Alice, you're joking. I can't see it yet. I quickly mixed that lump of green stuff and pushed it in front of him. I watched his expression carefully, not forgetting to give him a heads up. Chandler, try my cooking quickly. However, most cooling foods tend to taste astringent, which is normal. Chandler fumbled with his fork to pick up a piece of aloe, which happened to be coated with mustard. I watched as Chandler's expression shifted from calm to confused, then to coughing from the mustard's kick. Cough, cough, Alice. Did you put mustard in this? Chandler's eyes turned red from the irritation, and tears welled up, dampening his thick lashes. He looks utterly innocent. Could it be that the comments were lying? I quickly handed Chandler a tissue. Sorry, Chandler, I thought that was guacamole. Looking at his reddened nose tip, I cautiously said, Are you okay? Chandler blinked his teary eyes and shook his head, a pitiful sight. If I could see, maybe it wouldn't be like this. It doesn't seem like an act. Without waiting for my response, Chandler curled his lips. In the end, it's still my fault. His eyes were filled with desolation. I suddenly snapped back to reality and stopped Chandler from blaming himself. After all, it was because of my testing that Chandler choked on the mustard. I'm really sorry, Chandler. The next second, my hand on the counter was suddenly and precisely grasped by Chandler. Does Alice want to compensate me? Chandler suddenly lowered his head and chuckled. Then could I ask Alice to do me a favor? Next week, Chandler has an important cocktail party. He needs a female companion to attend. Me, Chandler, and I haven't made our relationship public yet. After all, his engagement with me is nothing but a transaction in name only. By the time Chandler regains his sight, our outcome is still uncertain. Chandler's grip on my hand tightened slightly. Lowering my head, I forced a smile. It was my lack of consideration. It must be quite embarrassing to attend with a blind person like me. Well, never mind then. It's not embarrassing at all. I quickly reached out and held Chandler's hand in return. My heart was filled with self-reproach. The chosen one, fallen into darkness in an instant, must feel very insecure. His eyes are just like when I first arrived at Franklin's house. His eyes couldn't focus at all. It was still clearly in a state of being unseen. How could I have doubted him so easily because of baseless words? This was the first time I had appeared in public with Chandler after our marriage. It was also the first time he had appeared in public after losing his sight. But the difference is, outsiders don't know this secret. He stood very close to me, his fingertips accidentally brushing against my arm. I felt a bit uncomfortable. That strange barrage of comments appeared again, as expected of Mr. Franklin. This level of scheming is truly unmatched. Just skipped the ending credits, and already managed to coax his wife into attending together. TSK, Mr. Franklin should write a book. I turned my head to check on Chandler's condition. He stood beside me, his fingertips lightly curling. This is a sign of unease. It's not at all like the comments said, that he's cunning and in control, combined with the previous comments that suggested I test Chandler. I am completely certain now, although I don't know where this comment came from. Its very existence is clearly meant to sow discord. Thinking of this, I no longer hesitated. I directly took Chandler's hand. Follow me. As soon as the words fell, his fingers slipped between mine, interlocking our hands tightly. His eyes were dazed yet filled with longing. Is this okay, Alice? He tilted his head and whispered close to my ear. I haven't been out in a long time, so I'm a bit scared. Do you mind? No. Then can I call you wifey? Warm breath brushed past. My face went blank for a moment. Then it became somewhat uncontrollably hot. Not getting a reply from me, Chandler pursed his lips. I just don't want outsiders speculating about our marital relationship. Okay. While no one was paying attention, I quickly raised my hand and fanned my cheek, trying to drive away the heat. But the next second, my cheeks grew even hotter. Chandler turned in my direction, a dimple appearing on his cheek. You're the best, honey. Throughout the entire banquet, Chandler stayed by my side without leaving. Praise for our harmonious marriage never ceased to reach my ears, but I was always able to handle it with ease. Only the 4 words Chandler whispered in my ear left me utterly flustered. I stole a glance at Chandler beside me. He is discussing business with someone, and there is no sign of blindness in his every gesture. Instead, he exudes the demeanor of someone in a position of authority. No wonder the noble women present are casting envious glances. I lowered my head. It's just a pity. I am merely a marriage partner with nothing but the title of Mrs. Franklin, Brother Chandler. A sweet, delicate female voice suddenly rang out. Before I could even process what was happening, a girl in a little dress suddenly rushed up to Chandler. She moved so fast that I had no time to stop her. She had already reached out her hand toward Chandler. I heard you were injured in a car accident not long ago. How are you now? The next second, Chandler, who was blind, accurately avoided her touch. No need for your concern, Miss Liu. Thanks to my wife's excellent care, I have fully recovered now. Chandler intertwined his fingers with mine again and pulled me into his embrace. Honey, let me introduce you. This is my distant cousin, Wendy. Wendy crossed her arms over her chest and didn't even look at me properly. What distant cousin? Chandler and I are already beyond the fifth degree of kinship. Such blatant provocation. I almost laughed out loud. I didn't want to get too involved in Chandler's family matters, but he leaned in closer again, lowering his voice. Honey, help me out, please. All right then, just because his breath was tickling my ear. It's not for any other reason. Hello, I'm Alice, Chandler's lover. Wendy gave a forced smile. My sister looks very much like a wealthy socialite. Her demeanor is somewhat similar to Mrs. James, but as for her appearance, I couldn't help but frown. The Mrs. James she mentioned is a well-known socialite in the area. She and her husband had a marriage of convenience, and after marriage, they maintained a facade of harmony while both played around outside. Wendy was clearly making a veiled jab at me, but I couldn't say anything. After all, Chandler and I were indeed a couple in name only. Chandler suddenly tightened his grip on my hand and took a step forward. Miss Lou, you're quite the joker. How could Mrs. James be anything like your cousin's wife? Wendy's face turned a bit green upon hearing the term, cousin-in-law. I stood by with great interest, watching the drama unfold. This was the first time I had ever seen Chandler being so sarcastic. My wife and I have a very good relationship, so there's no need for you to worry, cousin. Wendy rolled her eyes discreetly and muttered under her breath, it's just a matter of flapping your lips. It doesn't carry the credibility of a press conference. Who would believe that? The next second, Chandler suddenly cupped my face and kissed me directly. I didn't say another word to Chandler until I got home. It wasn't because I was angry. On the contrary, my mind was completely blank. All that remained were the chaotic bullet comments flashing before my eyes. Is the little sister dazed by the CEO's kiss? So adorable. Does the little sister still not realize that her husband is actually a scheming rascal? Ha 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 ha. Do you think the little sister might seem frozen, but is actually still savoring the moment? These innocent-faced wolves are the most unpredictable. Humph, Alice. Chandler softly called my name. He raised his hand and touched the tip of his nose. Actually, when I snapped back to reality, I saw the live chat comments were mocking me. However, I think I understand now. Considering what happened earlier, these comments are probably not true. Chandler, I interrupted him, pretending not to care at all. I get it. It's just acting, right? I won't take it to heart, and neither will you, right? Chandler stood before me, his pupils seeming to focus for a moment. Then he returned to his usual self, snorting with a laugh. Yes, of course, somehow. I actually managed to detect a hint of gritted teeth in his tone. Chandler was probably tired from socializing. He kept a cold face until bedtime, looking unapproachable. However, he seemed even more handsome. After coming out of the shower, I brushed past Chandler with his cold expression right at the bathroom door. But suddenly, the words from the bullet screen flashed through my mind. I couldn't help but secretly savor them. 5 minutes later, I suddenly realized something was wrong. I had casually thrown my underwear in the bathroom and forgotten to take it out. I stood at the bathroom door, trying to knock. What responded to me was the sound of rushing water. Chandler. There was no response at all. I was afraid Chandler might have an accident alone in the bathroom, so I had to press my ear against the bathroom door. But I faintly heard his suppressed gasps. It seemed to be a mix of pain and endurance. Could it be that he slipped and fell in the bathroom? I banged on the door harder. Chandler, are you okay? The next moment, the bathroom door clicked open. My hand, which I had just swung to knock, ended up hitting Chandler's chest. It's quite elastic, so white. I'm talking about the bathroom light. So big. I'm talking about the bathroom floor tiles. Chandler only had a towel wrapped around his waist. I awkwardly pulled my hand away. The moon is so full tonight, don't you think? So, would you like to go out and admire the moon with me? I'm dying of laughter, little sister. Didn't you hear the rain outside? It started raining not long after you two just got back from the party. Where on earth is the moon? I'm laughing so hard. Little sister is truly a master at making conversation topics. The comments this time really don't seem to be lying to me. Standing at the bathroom door, I can faintly hear the sound of wind and rain outside. Did everyone miss the point earlier? What does this have to do with the weather? Even if it's a sunny day with a moon, can we really enjoy the moonlight? Along with the other comments, I mentally drew a question mark. The next moment, Chandler looked down in my direction with a fake smile. Alice, you're really in the mood. asking a blind person to enjoy the moonlight with you. My face flushed bright red in an instant. I wished I could find a crack in the ground to crawl into. I'm sorry, Chandler, actually Were you looking for this? Chandler reached out his hand. A piece of light, thin green fabric dangled from his large hand. Just now, I felt my way along the wall and found this on a hook next to the bathtub. The texture feels like it's from your clothes, right? My face burned as if on fire, and I pursed my lips as I took the piece of light green fabric. The voice was barely audible. But, why is it all wet? Chandler didn't wait for me to ask and explained proactively, sorry. I might have accidentally splashed some water and shower gel on it while I was showering just now. I lowered my head. It seems to have a bit of a shower gel scent. Alice, there was a hint of helplessness in Chandler's eyes. Are you angry? Of course not. I gave him a smile, then remembered he couldn't see it and let it fade. It's just a piece of underwear. Alice, I'm not that petty. With that, I turned to leave. Chandler suddenly grabbed my wrist. His unfocused eyes blinked blankly. I mean, about kissing you at the party tonight. Chandler's fingertips were resting right on the pulse of my wrist, so, he probably could sense it. My uncontrollable, increasingly intense heartbeat. Chandler persistently wanted an answer. Would you mind it? Although I knew I was facing a blind person, when I touched his gaze, I still dodged as if I had been burned. I stammered and couldn't speak. Just then, suddenly, a snow-white flash of lightning lit up outside the window. Then, the entire villa plunged into darkness. Alice, a hint of panic tinged Chandler's voice. I squeezed his hand back. I've heard the doctor mention before that in cases like Chandler's, they can still perceive light. Don't be afraid, it's just a power outage. He interlocked his fingers with mine, holding on tightly. How could I be? I've already grown accustomed to living in this kind of darkness. I couldn't help but curl the corners of my lips. Okay, if his palm hadn't been sweating slightly, I would have believed him. Taking Chandler's arm, I tried to lead him toward the bedroom. The barrage, though late, arrives in such terrible weather. Let me tell a joke. The CEO is afraid of stormy weather. Such a clumsy excuse. Only the little sister would believe it. TSK. Humph. Good thing the camera is in night mode. The CEO is clearly smiling, isn't he? Seeing this comment, I instinctively looked at Chandler, but I couldn't see anything clearly. However, the arm I was holding onto, Chandler's arm, was indeed trembling slightly. He was genuinely scared. Can these annoying pop-up ads be blocked? As soon as this thought crossed my mind, the screen actually cleared up. Feeling at ease, I carefully continued guiding Chandler toward the bedroom, but it was too dark, with not a single glimmer of light. My shin soon bumped into something, and I stumbled forward. The next second, my waist was tightly gripped by Chandler's forearm, pulling me back into his embrace. It seemed to have pressed against something. In an instant, the lights came on, everything returned to normal. Chandler and I were standing in front of the dressing mirror in the living room. I was too ashamed to look directly, but when I turned my head, I saw Chandler's Adam's apple bob. Alice, his voice was terribly hoarse. Under the light, I finally regained my senses, realizing that what I had just touched was not something to be taken lightly. As I hastily stepped back, my cheeks burned intensely. The power is back on, you can go back by yourself. For the next few days, I kept avoiding Chandler intentionally or unintentionally. Every time I saw him, I would think of that awkward night. Unfortunately, Chandler was too busy with work during this time. It seemed he was handling the company's merger and acquisition case. Every morning after washing up, I dive straight into the study. It feels as if I'm the only one in the midst of chaos. I sit idly at my workstation, feeling lonely. Instead, I've started to miss those chattering bullet comments. The next moment, those glowing white bullet comments indeed appeared again. Is this the charm of the green mode? The atmosphere was already so intense back then. Why didn't the CEO just go for it with the girl? Oh my god, this is the first time I've seen a male lead with a mouth harder than. Can't the CEO just admit to the girl that he likes her too? Why make our girls so insecure? Although I've always felt that the bullet comments were wrong, but this is the first time I hope the comments are right. If Chandler likes me too, that would be so wonderful. Actually, the CEO is easy to catch. Baby girl, just beckon and he'll take the bait. It's all the CEO's fault. Why is he so obsessed with work? The little sister has no time to interact with him. Why do people have to work? JPG. As I watched the comments getting more and more off topic, a thought suddenly crossed my mind. If Chandler won't come to me, then I'll just go to him. After all, trying won't cause any harm. When I came to my senses, I was already standing outside Chandler's study, holding a plate of cut watermelon. Chandler, I brought you some fruit. His voice was just as cool and detached as ever. Please come in. But I didn't expect, when I entered, Chandler was in a video conference, and the door's position was fully visible in the camera. Fortunately, all those present were senior partners at his company. They had a decent understanding of my relationship with Chandler. I put down the fruit platter and was about to leave. Chandler suddenly spoke up, "Feed me." I was just about to signal him that the camera was still on nearby. Then I suddenly remembered that Chandler couldn't see it. I had no choice but to resign myself to the situation, forking a piece of watermelon and bringing it to his lips. Chandler didn't open his mouth immediately, but instead held my hand. His warm fingertips brushed against the back of my hand, sending a shiver through me. Watching Chandler eat the watermelon, I instinctively wanted to pull my hand back, but Chandler held my hand even tighter, forked a piece of watermelon from the fruit plate, and raised it to my lips. "Darling, you try it too. This watermelon tastes a bit different from usual." How could watermelon taste any different? I ate it with a mix of doubt and curiosity. There's nothing special about it. Chandler's fox-like eyes narrowed with a smile. "Because my wife is the one feeding me." As he said this, he casually tilted his head toward the camera. "The newly released watermelon really tastes different. What kind of CEO is this?" I'm really speechless. My face was flushed. Breaking free from Chandler's hand, she waved to the camera and hurried out. Until the surging heartbeat calmed down, I finally realized a problem. Just now, when I made eye contact with Chandler, his eyes are very lively, not at all like a blind person's. Could it be that his eyes have finally improved? But I didn't have time to ask Chandler. In the afternoon, I received a call from Old Man Franklin. "I heard you and Chandler have been getting along well lately." Before I could even speak, the old man suddenly chuckled. "Alice, do you know why I chose you to be the daughter-in-law of the Franklin family in the first place?" I didn't answer, but I knew very well, because you were obedient enough, and your family background is respectable. But in other aspects, once Chandler regains his sight, whether he will acknowledge you as his wife is another matter. I understand. I think that day won't be too far away, seeing that Chandler has almost recovered. We can consider a follow-up examination and further treatment. When hanging up the phone, I suddenly remembered that day, the first time I saw the bullet comments. A sentence flashed through my mind. Chandler has never been interested in women, and he only married Alice because his parents insisted. How could he fall in love without even having seen Alice's face? I stand before the mirror. Gently, I touch my own face. Indeed, if Chandler had seen my face first, perhaps he wouldn't be as affectionate with me as he is now. I was born far too ordinary. When I met Wendy at the cocktail party that day, the mockery in her tone was unmistakable. But Chandler, who is completely blind, had no way of knowing. As the old man Franklin said, the next day, Chandler was about to board a flight to the UK. Before leaving, he held my hand. "Alice, there's something I want to tell you when I get back." Before hanging up the phone that day, old man Franklin had reminded me, "Don't get too close to Chandler, otherwise, in the end, I'll be the one who gets hurt." But at this moment, I didn't let go. Even if this is my last bit of longing, after Chandler went abroad, he insisted on having voice calls with me every night. This longing supported the last bit of my delusion, until 1 week after he went abroad. From that day on, Chandler never sent any more messages. Old man Franklin did speak with me, saying Chandler is recovering well. His eyes can already see blurry outlines. I lean against the headboard and spear a piece of watermelon. Perhaps, the reason Chandler hasn't contacted me is that he's busy with his treatment. As for other reasons, I don't even dare to think about them. The watermelon, when bitten into, was still full of juice, but for some reason, it tasted a bit astringent. Perhaps the watermelon from that morning was the best and sweetest I've ever had in my life. I probably won't be able to taste one like that again, however. I soon had no more thoughts to spare for Chandler. After no longer needing to take care of Chandler, I devoted all my energy to work. Coincidentally, during this period, the company I worked for became busier with each passing day. I heard it was to welcome the company's newly appointed CEO. When I'm buried in front of the computer, I don't have the mind to think about Chandler anymore. Until this day, I was working on a proposal. Suddenly, I heard a somewhat familiar male voice. Hello? Is Alice here? I hadn't even lifted my head when the male intern beside me suddenly stood up. Who are you? What do you need from Sister Alice? The familiarity in his tone made me frown slightly. To make matters worse, this intern was a full 185 centimeters tall, standing right in front of me and completely blocking my view. It's work hours now, not a good time to handle personal matters. You should take your flowers and leave. Someone sent me flowers. I was just about to stand up, suddenly. I heard the person across from me laugh. You should be having afternoon tea right now. During the break, can't I see my lover? I sat behind the intern, my pupils shaking in shock. The person who arrived was Chandler, frantically trying to find a mask to put on. Lover, I'm in the same project group as Alice, and I've never heard her mention that she's not single. As she spoke, she took another step forward. I've seen plenty of people like you who just won't give up. Hurry up and leave. This is CA Group. You know, CA Group was the new name the company adopted just half a month ago. After it was acquired, the argument between the two grew louder, attracting the department manager. What are you arguing about? From a distance, the department manager shouted to stop the intern. The intern wore a reluctant expression. Manager, this person entered the company without a work badge. And judging by their outfit, they don't look like a food delivery person. Through the gap, I saw the handmade leather shoes Chandler was wearing. Even though there was no logo, I could roughly tell. It would cost 6 figures. It's understandable that an intern doesn't know better. I looked up at his retreating figure. This fresh graduate was quite fair-skinned and rather handsome. He always liked to ask me all sorts of questions. This is the first time I've seen him react so strongly. It's just a pity that he's still too young. He's completely outmatched when standing in front of Chandler. Just as the department manager walked up to the crowd, I secretly peeked through the crack and saw the manager's face change drastically as he looked at Chandler. I knew it. Chandler is indeed our new CEO. As expected, Chandler snorted coldly. What credentials do I need? Will this work? He started pulling things out of his pocket. I thought it was something like the CEO's identification. I had never seen one before. Curiously, I leaned forward to take a closer look. A bright red booklet came into view. Inside, it was a red background photo of me and Chandler. No, why is it a marriage certificate? I'm really done with this, Mr. Franklin. The department manager beside me was also stunned, but the intern still held his head high. He's just a vice president. My dad is a company director. Chandler narrowed his eyes. The department manager quickly shot a glare at the intern. It's not the vice president. It's President Chandler. The intern blocking my path suddenly swayed, his voice trembling. So it's President Franklin. Chandler's gaze swept lightly over his face. My eyes hurt, so I won't look at your ID. Now, can you tell me where my wife is? The intern shakily moved aside, revealing me behind him, trying to put on a mask. The moment our eyes met, Chandler didn't look particularly surprised. When he handed me the blue baby's breath from his arms, it was no different from before. So I couldn't determine how Chandler's vision was recovering, as our fingertips touched. Chandler leaned in and whispered in my ear, Darling, my eyes are a bit sore. Can you come and help me apply the medicine? The department manager certainly agreed to let me go. This was my first time coming to the CEO's office. Even though it was after the acquisition, as I opened the ointment, I casually brought it up. Have you regained your eyesight now? Chandler, with his eyes closed, shook his head. Now I can only see a little bit of outline. So today, when I finally decided to come to the company to find you, I ran into such a strange person. He leaned back on the leather sofa. It seems my wife must be a great beauty. Otherwise, why would that young lad be so reckless as to confront me? It must be because he likes you. But don't worry, my dear. I trust you completely. I remained silent. In fact, just by looking at Chandler's outfit today, it was clear that he was either wealthy or of high status. So I was quite surprised when the intern stood up for me today, but I didn't think in the direction Chandler mentioned, shaking my head with a faint smile. How could that be? My appearance has always been rather plain. Since I was little, my mom has always said this about me. But Chandler spoke up. My wife is just really beautiful. He said it with a proud look. very much like the big yellow dog I had when I was a child. If Chandler had a tail, it would probably be wagging like a propeller by now. He even tried to act cute with me. My eyes hurt. Honey, blow on them for me. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so I had to lean in closer. The next second, something soft suddenly pressed against my lips. Moi, could Chandler really not see it? But Chandler didn't give me a chance to ask. He cupped the back of my head and deepened the kiss. It wasn't until the air in my lungs grew thin that Chandler finally released me. Alice, do you remember what I said to you before I left? I leaned against his chest, nuzzling him in response. Cough. He cleared his throat. I prepared a fireworks show by the river this weekend. Would you like to join me? Chandler gently rubbed his head against mine. I always felt he had more to say. But he said no more. This time, I was the first to react. Then can your eyes see it? Chandler nodded. Indeed, fireworks are just some light and shadow. In Chandler's eyes, it probably looked like a soft focus filter had been applied, so I chose to gladly accept the invitation. I just didn't expect, as the CEO, Chandler still had to work overtime on the weekend. I had no choice but to take a car to the riverside first. When the driver stopped, the surroundings were desolate and empty. It was probably Chandler who had cleared the area specifically for this fireworks show. What a waste. As I thought this, the corners of my mouth unconsciously curved upward, but I didn't expect, just as I stepped onto the beach, the next moment, I was plunged into boundless darkness. I was woken up by the light from the barrage comments. In the dim environment, the barrage comments emitted a white glow, but I still couldn't see anything. It turned out someone had put a hood over my head. You guys. If the female supporting character commits a crime, can the child of the CEO and the younger sister still take the civil service exam? What are they talking about? I haven't had time to figure out the situation yet. I heard Wendy's frantic voice. Hurry up and tie me up too. What are you standing there for? When Brother Chandler comes to rescue me, I'll plead with him, and you can leave. Don't worry, I won't shortchange you. Oh well, so it was Wendy's doing. At least she had the sense to make the act look real by including herself. Not too foolish after all. This supporting female character's move is so similar to the classic White Lotus trope. In a domineering CEO novel, she'd definitely come out on top, right? What genre is our novel? I'm sure I entered the sweet romance channel, right? Good thing I scanned the area with my holographic glasses. There's no one handsomer or richer than the male lead nearby. It shouldn't be the chasing wife to the crematorium genre. The bullet comments had me cracking up. The next second, someone pulled the hood off my head. Looking around, Wendy was busy building her victim image and had no time to deal with me, so even though I was tied up, it wasn't too uncomfortable. However, why is there a strange smell? Is the female supporting character too scheming, smearing mud on the sister's face? Oh my gosh. If the male lead can still recognize the sister like this, then it must be true love. Maybe Chandler shouldn't come after all. I watched the spoilers in the bullet comments, feeling utterly disheartened. Are you saying that when Chandler burst in, Wendy, with her dewy, fresh-faced makeup, looked so pitiful and delicate, while my face was smeared with strangely scented river mud, barely taking on a human shape? Later, there will be a scene where the kidnapper forces Chandler to choose between two options. Isn't it obvious who he would choose? The next second, there was a noise at the warehouse door. Listen up, everyone inside. You're surrounded. Hand over the hostages immediately. The barrage of comments exploded instantly. This CEO is truly extraordinary. He actually knew to call the police. That already puts him ahead of 99% of male leads in CEO-themed novels. What surprised me even more was that the kidnappers, who had been on high alert just moments before, all showed signs of backing down. The leader, his face flushed with anger, scolded Wendy, who had just finished touching up her makeup. You said it wouldn't affect us, and our descendants could still take the civil service exam. Aren't you ruining my child's future? Then the kidnapper surrendered with a pitiful look. The law enforcement officers were still a bit incredulous when they entered the room. They looked at Chandler. Which one of these is your lover? I closed my eyes. Oh no, my eyes are stinging. The next second, Chandler pulled me into his arms. Thankfully, he's still blind. Darling, I can finally see you. Maybe you shouldn't see it yet. On the way back after washing my face, Chandler and I spoke at the same time. Darling, I originally planned to celebrate your birthday with a fireworks show today. But you, Chandler, let's get a divorce. Why? Chandler raised the soundproof partition and stared intently at me. Did my father say something to you? Don't worry, I'll handle his side of things. I'll take care of it. I shook my head. Chandler, don't you think I'm not good enough for you? I lowered my head, covering my face. I mean, in terms of looks, he answered very quickly, almost without thinking. Of course not. I've told you so many times. Honey, you're clearly so beautiful. I brushed away his attempt to hold my hand. You don't need to comfort me. Chandler suddenly chuckled softly. Darling, we're both adults. We probably don't believe in those bizarre fairy tales anymore. You don't think I'd comfort you with something like inner beauty, do you? But the truth is, you're very beautiful. From the moment my eyes recovered a long time ago and I saw you for the first time, it was love at first sight. So now, can you believe? Chandler's words trailed off. Because I lifted my head and stared straight at him. You just said, when did you regain your sight? Chandler pursed his lips and finally chose to be honest. Not long after you married me, probably just 2 or 3 days later. Then why didn't you tell me? But he avoided my gaze, his voice somewhat low. Because I know we only got married for convenience. I was afraid that if I told you my eyes had recovered, you would leave me. I raised an eyebrow. Aren't you afraid now? Chandler carefully wrapped his arms around me. Now I know, it wasn't just love at first sight for me. And I have a place in your heart too. My eyes and my heart can both feel it. You're not allowed to deny it. I was completely disarmed by Chandler's words. He took my hand and gently rubbed the ring on my ring finger. Honey, let's not get a divorce, okay? I really love you so much, ever since I can remember. My mom has always been nitpicking about my appearance. Actually, I did resist at first. I told my mom. Grandma said I'm a light-featured beauty. I'm pretty too. My mother sneered. What's the use of having delicate features? In the end, you'll just be a bland supporting character in others' eyes. My father is always busy with work. The only person I spend every day with is my mother, who constantly puts me down. She has been putting me down for years. Later, I gradually started to feel that I was not good looking. I became timid and withdrawn. I didn't have many friends at school or at work, until my father's business failed and our family fortunes declined. My mother couldn't bear the blow and passed away. It was only on her deathbed that my grandmother told me the whole truth. My mother was a very proud girl from a young age. She had high ambitions, and even after joining the dance troupe, she remained the same. However, due to her appearance and style, she couldn't land the lead role in her favorite stage play at that time. Makeup techniques were also limited and couldn't achieve the sophisticated face transformation we see today. Later, she met my father, who had thick eyebrows and big eyes, and left the dance industry. The dream was sealed away. She was overjoyed to have a daughter, but unexpectedly, my appearance still resembles my mother's more. To her, my existence is the recurrence of a nightmare that has haunted her for many years. The last words my grandmother spoke before she passed away were, "She's had a hard life too. Don't blame her. I don't blame her. I am the little tree she personally nurtured." But she had already destroyed my branches. Later on, I was chosen by the Franklin family. Meeting Chandler. After listening attentively to all of this, Chandler reached out and wiped away my tears. A kiss lands on my forehead. They are narrow-minded and don't know how to appreciate your beauty. In this world, there will always be someone who treats me like a treasure. When we got home, Chandler wrapped his arm around my waist, the evening glory pointing towards the corner of the villa wall. Every flower and every tree in the world will have someone to appreciate them, but you don't have to spend all your time waiting for someone to come and admire you. The only thing you need to do is grow for yourself. I stood on my tiptoes and kissed him back. The setting sun stretched our shadows long, like the two most romantic flowers and trees in the world. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.